And we're back for our daily MLB Best Bets here for May 8th. About half the teams in Major League Baseball are playing today. It is a travel day for, again, those other half of the league. But today, again, we get a good slate of games to choose from. Some morning games, some afternoon games, a couple night games played in Anaheim and Arizona. And we're going to go over our 5 best bets for the slate today. We've been on fire recently with the MLB Best Bets. Now, again, we struggled a little bit yesterday, and we've been struggling with the player props sometimes. Well, actually, that was just yesterday with Luis Rengifo. Bad read on my end, but we had a good day with the Nerfy, with the money line, with the Reds. Nationals didn't hit. I'll talk about that at the very end of the video. I don't want to get into that right now. After I give the best bets, I guess I'll give my daily rundown on the Nats. But before we get into the best bets, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily MLB Best Bets here on the channel. Later today, we're going to have our NBA predictions and best bets. Only one game today, Warriors-Timberwolves Game 2. No Steph Curry for Golden State tonight. We're going to talk about that game, and we've been, I'm hitting at like an 80% rate in the last, couple days, or last week with the NBA right now. Yesterday, we go 2 for 2. Knicks spread hits. Thunder spread hits. Oh, we've been on fire with the NBA. Make sure to check us out in a couple hours with that. And on Greedo Plays MMA, multiple videos out this week. UFC 315 predictions, our PFL Mana predictions, and yesterday we posted our PFL Europe predictions from Belfast, Ireland. Make sure to go check out every one of those videos. They're all linked in the description down below, and go subscribe to Greedo Plays MMA as well. Okay, on to the first of our 5 best bets for this MLB schedule today on Thursday. We kick things off with the earliest game of the day, Twins and Orioles. Guys, I expect this game to be a shootout. The over-under in this game is 7.5 runs. I think, okay, this game's going to go one of 2 ways, all right? Let me detail the one of 2 ways this can go. I think this is either going to be a game where we seriously see, 1-1 going into the 7th inning. By the time Dean Kremer and Bailey Ober are out the game, it's 1-1, 2-1, or we just see, non-stop action in terms of runs all game long, right? Because both Ober and Kremer, these are guys who can get blown up in starts. But recently, though, right, Kremer's last start, he goes 7 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs. We've talked about the Stockton 209 native quite a bit so far this year. And for Bailey Ober, he's just been avoiding disaster, I feel like, in every start he's had in the last, 3 starts. 8 hits, 7 hits in each of his last 3 starts. He only gave up 1 run in all 3 of those. Again, guys are getting on base against Bailey Ober. It's just teams aren't executing when they have runners on scoring position. Hell, the Twins have actually won their last 4 games that Ober has pitched in, and it's not like this team has a good record at all. Now, we don't worry about the final outcome of this game. I don't care about the over-under for this game either. Specifically, this is our best player prop of the day. So yesterday, again, we had Luis Rengifo and over on total bases. Now, that didn't go our way because, the guy just couldn't hit off of Jose Barrios early. It is what it is. He went 0 for 2, and they subbed him out later in the game. And by the way, the Angels with an electric finish last night, walking off the Toronto Blue Jays. Bases loaded, 1 out. Jorge Soler pulls 1 down the line at third. My goodness, I had nothing to bet on late at night, so I did actually end up taking the Angels, and hey, we cashed. That was not a best bet yesterday. That was just, I don't know why I even mentioned it. Regardless, though, that was a fun game. We'll actually have more about the Angels and Blue Jays later today, or later in the video. But I am going to go with Gunnar Henderson today on the over total bases. Again, staying away from hits, runs, and RBI for this specific reason, okay? If in the event where this is not a shootout, I still trust in Gunnar Henderson to get hits and to get on base, okay? So if there aren't opportunities for him, because, okay, regardless of how I feel about this game, the Orioles, I will say this, they have been very lackluster hitting-wise. They've lost their last 4 games, and they've been struggling to put any runs on the board, right? So, for one, Gunnar might not be in many opportunities to knock runs in, and on the flip side, he might not be, again, he might not be hidden once he's on base. So I'm going to trust in it just Gunnar Henderson here. Again, hits, runs, and RBI, sure. You can hit it with 2 hits like we did yesterday with James Wood, right? James Wood got that fairly easily for us. He had 3 hits yesterday. But anyways, right, he hit his line fairly easily. Total bases, again, same thing though. It's just more dependent on just the player itself. So Gunnar Henderson can clear this line with a double. He can do it with multiple hits. And the line for over 1.5 total bases for Gunnar is minus 105. Henderson, right, start of the year on the IR or the IL. now is back, obviously. And I'll say for the first month of Gunnar Henderson's season, up until, last week, I'd say, that was his spring training. Gunnar Henderson in the first week of the year in April batted 228. He's batting 368 so far in the month of May. He's been much better again since he's gotten a full month under his belt so far in 2025. And I'm not concerned at all about Gunnar Henderson. I was going to make the claim at the very beginning of the season that Gunnar Henderson was going to win the American League MVP this year. Obviously, that's not going to happen, I don't think. Just because of the slow start, and that's likely going to Aaron Judge. I mean, just look at what the guy's doing right now. But still, I firmly believe Gunnar's elite. He's only 23 years of age, and I think Gunnar Henderson's going to clear this line easily for us today. The Orioles, hey, they've lost 4 in a row, maybe some pressure building for them, but I think if anything, again, Bailey Ober gives up hits, right? Regardless of if those hits turns into runs, who knows? But Gunnar is going to get opportunities to put the ball in play and to pick up base knocks against Bailey Ober while at the same time getting bases as well. So I'm fine with Gunnar Henderson here over 1.5 total bases in this matchup against the Minnesota Twins. Don't care what the final score is. We just have Gunnar for this game. Second best bet of the video, we move to our first of 3 straight game best bets. No Nationals today. They return tomorrow on Apple TV against the St. Louis Cardinals. So actually, technically not a money line here. I'm taking White Sox spread. The only other time we've ever taken a spread other than the Nationals this season has been with the Chicago White Sox. And, the last time we did that, it went well for us until it didn't. And you might be thinking, oh, you lost the bet. No. We had them against the Minnesota Twins, I'd say, about 2 weeks ago at this point now. The White Sox are dominating the game. They're winning 3-0 going into the 7th inning, or going into the 8th inning, if I'm not mistaken, and the game get called due to rain. We had Sox spread, not money line. The weird way how this gets scored is that spread does not hit, but money line does for the White Sox because they were considered the winners of that game. But since it didn't go 9 innings, you don't get the spread play for the White Sox. So let's hope there's no rain in Kansas City, Missouri today. Let's hope the game actually gets played out in full. And we're taking the Chicago White Sox on the plus 1.5 run line. I know what you're thinking, right? You're taking the White Sox. I think there are spots where the White Sox can be really good. Obviously, again, they're a 10-27 baseball team. They're already 17 games under 500. I understand. They're the second worst team in all of baseball, only behind those lowly Colorado Rockies who, lost another game last night to the Detroit Tigers. They play a doubleheader against them today. I'm completely staying away from that spot in Denver today. I would consider maybe just, if you want to parlay Tigers both games, I don't mind it, but I'd stay away. Anyways, the Royals have won 5 games in a row. It's baseball, guys. They're due for a loss. The White Sox have lost 1 million games in a row as well. That doesn't really matter as much. What I will say here, though, is that Chicago's been very competitive in the first 2 games of the series in Kansas City. Today is getaway day for Chicago, right? But the first 2 games of this, the second 2 games of this 4-game set, the Royals are very close. The White Sox are very close, losing on Tuesday 4-3 to the Royals, losing 2-1 on Wednesday yesterday. And the first game on Monday, it is 3-0. But the Royals haven't really seen that much success hitting-wise against Chicago. Now, here's my thing about this specific game. The pitching matchup is going to be Davis Martin versus Chris Bubich. Shout out to the Cupertino, California's own, and Chris Bubich. I've actually seen him when I was in high school. I saw him walking on my school's track during practice once. That was something. Anyways, Bubich has been excellent, right? Former Midi guy over here in the Bay Area, 1.98 ERA so far this year. Yes, Bubich has been very good. The lefty's been elite. The thing with Bubich is, though, he's not going to go the deepest into games. He'll give you 5 shutout innings. He might give you, again, that game against the Rockies, he went 7 shutout innings, but that's the Rockies on the road, right? His last start against the O's was really good. 5 innings, 4 hits, 0 runs. But that's kind of a Chris Bubich start, let's just be honest. He's not going to likely go past 6 innings. I think he's only done it once all year, and that was that Rockies start. So there's a lot of potential for the White Sox here. If they can just scrape 1 run off of Bubich, and he goes 6 innings, I'm actually okay with that, because I said this before, I don't think the White Sox's rotation is that horrible. They're just, compared to past years, they're really not. Their bats suck, and I'll get to their bats in a second, right? Benintendi's out now too, and it's just, it's a struggle bus in Chicago with their bats. But I really don't think the pitching staff's all that bad. We've talked about this before with guys like Sean Burke, Jonathan Cannon, Shane Smith. Well, today we get Davis Martin. The Albany, Texas native, 3.52 ERA on the season. He hasn't been bad. A couple starts ago against the Athletics, he went 6 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs. That's a really good line for a guy in Martin. I mean, not the most effective strikeout guy, but he's going to, again, he'll get some swing and misses. I think it's a decent spot, and I look at what the White Sox are putting at the plate. It's bad, I'm not going to lie. Palacios, Vargas, Robert, Theis, Vaughn, Brooks Baldwin, who can swing it, Rojas, Sosa, Amaya, Meredith. Oh, God, that's bad. And the Royals, again, are the much better lineup. I understand that. But really, hear me out. Guys, beyond Maikel Garcia and Bobby Witt Jr., yes, there are way better hitters on this Royals team compared to Chicago. And there's guys who can hit for power. I'm looking at Pasquantino. I'm looking at Salvi. But decent pitchers are going to have success against the Royals. And yes, they're a team that's 6 games over 500 right now. The entire AL Central feels like it's pretty good except for, well, the top 3 teams, not including the White Sox and Twins, are pretty good in the AL Central. But we saw Jonathan Cannon have a lot of success against the Royals yesterday. Sure, 9 hits, but 6 innings, 9 hits, 2 runs. That'll play, and I think that's the type of game we're going to get today. Seriously, I think we might see that same exact score going into, say, the 7th inning once both Martin and Bubich are out the game. I think we see 2-1. So as long as the White Sox are just able to scrape across a run early in this game, I think we're going to be okay. I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair where I just feel like it's going to be tough for the Royals to get away from Chicago because the White Sox pitching staff, again, is better than you really expect it to be. The White Sox have covered plus 1.5 in back-to-back games now, and sure, yes, the run yesterday was at the very end of the 9th inning. Luis Robert hit a single, drove in a run, but still, they've covered plus 1.5 in back-to-back spots against the Royals. Why not again? They're kind of due for a victory, too. I would not be surprised in the slightest, by the way, if the Royals sweep a 4-game series, but as long as the White Sox can keep this within 1, we're going home happy. We're going to take White Sox plus 1.5 here at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. Let's move on to our third best bet of the video, and we go to our next money line, or technically our first money line of the day. This one feels a little too good to be true. Phillies money line on the road in Tampa Bay. And no, I'm not just judging that off, the Phillies just on paper are so much better than Tampa. They are, don't get me wrong, and that's been apparent in the first 2 games of this series. And let's just be honest, guys, the first 2 games in the series really haven't been all that competitive. The first one was much more than yesterday's game, but an 8-4 victory for Philadelphia on Tuesday. It felt like they were always kind of in control of that one. They've always had a lead, or I guess Tampa Bay has never led in this series so far. Zach Wheeler had a really good night on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, yesterday Christopher Sanchez pitches excellent ball, only gives up 1 hit the entire game for him through 6 innings. And then today you get Jesus Luzardo, who arguably has been their best starter all year long, right? Luzardo so far this year with a 1.94 ERA over 41 2/3 innings. Ryan Pepio goes tonight for Tampa Bay. That's fine. I don't think Pepio's the worst. But when I compare lineups and I compare the matchup, yeah, we love Jesus Luzardo in the spot against the Rays, a Rays team that has been struggling offensively. You look at this lineup, and who jumps off the page for you? I'm serious. This is my thing about the American League, guys, and I've said this before. I don't think the AL is very good. Again, I will bitch and complain about the Nationals all the time, and I'm going to have my piece to say at the very end of the video today about the Nationals. But, okay, that team should have beaten the Guardians 2 games out of 3. They should have won 2 of 3 against the Guardians, who are probably the 3rd best team in the American League right now. And the Nationals are, 5 games out of the playoffs? It just goes to show, I think the National League is so much better than the American League. And the Rays, sure, they're a team that's 4 games under, but in the NL, this team is 8 games under, in my opinion. They're just not that good. Yandy Diaz is their best hitter. He's batting .257. Junior Caminero is great, but he's batting .240. What impresses you on this Rays team? I'm serious. What does? And then you add on top of that, okay, right? By the way, Taijuan Walker coming out the bullpen now, that's something. Great start to the regular season for him starting, and then he gets a 3-inning save yesterday against Tampa, picking up his first career save. ERA's now down to 2.3 for Taijuan Walker, who saw, 10 batters yesterday, 7 strikeouts, insane. Anyways, I look at this Philly lineup. Bryce Harper, guys, slowly but surely is figuring things out. On Tuesday, we had his player prop. He hit it. Harper continuing to hit for this Philly squad. Look at Trey Turner, who quietly now has the average up to 307. He went yard yesterday. Yeah, unfortunately, the Phillies are back. I made a bold claim earlier in the year saying, oh, I think this team should just blow it up, and start rebuilding. Yeah, that's really not going our way, I'm just going to be honest. Philadelphia is good, and they're much better than the Rays in this spot. I really wonder how the Rays are going to be able to score against Jesus Luzardo, and ultimately, yes, the pitching matchup today in Florida makes the difference for me. I don't think Ryan Pepiot is a bad starting pitcher. But I think when we compare both starting lineups and who's going to be in the order compared to, or also in parlaying that with the starting pitching tonight, I think Luzardo is able to run through the Rays lineup. By the way, a Rays lineup that got shut out yesterday by Christopher Sanchez and Taijuan Walker. And again, nothing against Ryan Pepiot, but the task he is dealt today is much more difficult than what Luzardo's got to deal with. Again, Pepiot is dealing with a lineup of Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos has been hitting the ball fairly well right now. I mean, just those guys alone, the bottom of the order is just bad, let's be honest with who. I mean, well, Kepler will have his nights, but JT, Bohm's just been mid. Rojas has been really good up to 9. Slowly but surely, yes, the Phillies are picking things up, and dare I say they're gonna win the division? I probably will. I think, again, the Mets are going to fall off a cliff. I know the Mets won yesterday, screwed us in the money line play, but yeah, I think the Phils are probably going to win the NL East. And maybe this is their year. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Despite popular belief, I actually don't dislike Philly that much. Like, I kind of want to see Bryce Harper win a ring. They're the team I hate the least out the NL East. Actually, that's a lie. Maybe the Marlins. No, the Marlins small ball pisses me off. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. Give me Phillies money line here in Florida over the Rays, -135. Let's go on to our fourth best bet of the video. Another money line play here. Let's go to Anaheim, California for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm taking the Blue Jays here. Something I said I wasn't going to do for a while after the last time we had Toronto in a game, but I'm willing to move on from that. So you look at the game that we had the Blue Jays in, right? I mean, I can't forget it. We had Blue Jays money line at home against the Cleveland Guardians. It's a game where Kevin Gausman pitched an absolute gem. He goes 6 innings in that game, 1 hit, 0 runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. Puts his team in an excellent position to win the baseball game. They are up, 3-0 going into the 8th inning. Guardians get 1 run in the 8th, and in the 9th inning, Yimi Garcia is 2 pitches away from ending the game. He has 2 outs. He loads the bases with 2 outs, and Schneemann hits his 2nd home run in as many innings, and the Guardians win the baseball game 5-3. Since that moment, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, the Blue Jays have not won a game. They proceed to lose the third game to the Guardians, ultimately dropping the series in Toronto, and then they go to Anaheim. They've lost the first 2 games of this set. Tuesday, they lose 8-3, and then yesterday, they're in control for most of that game. Sure, it was competitive through 6 innings. Yusei Kikuchi had a pretty good night. Jose Barrios had a really good game as well, but then in the bottom of the 9th inning, it looks like the Jays have got it. I stopped watching the game and I bet on the Angels. I picked it back up in the bottom of the 9th, obviously. But Jorge Soler hits one down the 3rd baseline. It is a bases clearing double. Blue Jays were up 2. They lose by 3. They get walked off yet again. Not the first time this week. I feel like eventually this team has kind of got to change their fortune, right? I think it's about time they do, I'm going to be honest. The Angels have somehow now won 3 of 4 after losing 8 games in a row. Good for them. Seriously, I think the city of Anaheim, if they ever show up for the Angels, which they do sometimes, they showed up last night, they need something to cheer for, right? But I think tonight the Blue Jays do win. I look at the pitching matchup, nice. I look at the pitching matchup, Chris Bassett versus Jose Soriano. Soriano's going to have his nights, don't get me wrong, he will. But I do worry about how deep he goes into this game, and he will get tagged. Right, Soriano, 3.83 ERA in the season. The way better pitcher in this matchup is Chris Bassett. Is he kind of a dinosaur in his own right? Yeah, but I think Bassett does have better stuff. And I look at his last couple games. Oh, he's kind of been, the Guardians score 3 runs and 7 hits off him. Yankees, 4 runs, 6 hits. Houston, 4 runs, 7 hits. Again, not the best lines, but we got to consider he's pitching against the Angels, and there's only so many nights where the Angels can be successful. Regardless of their Jorge Soler walk-off victory, they left so many guys on base in that game yesterday, just like the Nationals. But regardless, right, there are going to be opportunities for Bassett to get out of innings, and I think he's going to be all right. Again, credit to the Angels for winning yesterday, a game that I did not anticipate them to win, especially after they fell from behind. I thought at the beginning of the game, obviously, they could have won. But after the Blue Jays put up 3 runs on them in the 7th inning, right, I didn't see a pathway through. Angels come back, ultimately win the game. But as a whole, when we look at this lineup, I like Zach Neto. Sean Newell's all right. Jorge Soler's great. Ohapi will have his nights. But the better lineup is still Toronto, don't get me wrong. The Angels intentionally walked Vlad Guerrero in the 3rd inning of yesterday's game, which I thought was interesting. They had an empty base, so they just walked Guerrero to get to Anthony Santander, who did have 2 hits of his own right yesterday. One was an RBI knock, if I'm not mistaken, in the 6th. Yes, it was. But his average this year is still 188, right? So there are holes in this Blue Jays lineup, don't get me wrong. But I think, again, eventually this team's fortune has to turn around. They're a team that's 4 games under 500 right now. The Angels are 15-20. The Jays are 16-20. But I think the Blue Jays will get them tonight. I think off of a pitching effort by Chris Bassitt at the same time. I expect, again, yes, kind of a dinosaur, 36 years old, I understand. But I expect Bassitt to be good. And I think the Blue Jays, right, they're too talented to lose, a 5th game in a row? Right, Bo Bichette still batting 277. Guerrero rockets the ball every time he hits it. He's batting 280. George Springer's been excellent this year. Had a bad game yesterday, don't get me wrong, 0 for 4, but he's been good all year long. Even look at a guy like Miles Straw at the bottom of the lineup. He has produced at points. Andres Jimenez, I haven't seen Andres Jimenez be really all that productive for the Blue Jays this season, with the exception of that game where he homered against the Washington Nationals, and actually all series long early in the year against the Nats. But regardless, I think the Blue Jays are the better team in this spot. I don't think they get swept by the Angels, and I'm hoping Chris Bassitt puts on a performance for us tonight, and I think the Blue Jays will win the game outright. Minus 125 on the line. Give me the Jays to avoid the sweep. We go on to our final best bet of the video. It's our Nerfie of the day. The Los Angeles Dodgers take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. So as I look through the Nerfies for today, there wasn't much, to choose from. I'm not going to lie. I was thinking of doing White Sox Royals. I think that's a really good bet, but I decided, again, I try to keep best bets, one game or one best bet per game. So I decided, you know what, I just want to go White Sox spread in that game instead. But honestly, I don't mind Bubich and Davis Martin getting us the outs, but I don't think the odds are very good for that one. The other one I did consider was Nick Lodolo, Spencer Schwellenbach. Didn't love it though. The no for Nerfie was like minus 155. I'm going to pass on that. Right? Luzardo Pepio, I think the Phillies are going to score on Pepio in the 1st inning, if I'm being honest with you. And then the other one I considered was Casey Mize and Kyle Freeland in Colorado, but it's Coors Field, and the way the Tigers hit yesterday, and honestly the way the Rockies hit yesterday as well, I wouldn't trust a Colorado Coors Nerfie today. So instead, I'm going to go to Chase Field, a park that is fairly hard to hit balls out in, obviously, is definitely when you look straight away center. Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Brandon Pfaadt on the mound. So yesterday, neither the Mets or the D-backs scored in the 1st inning. We had D-backs money line, obviously did not go our way. But today we get the Dodgers in town in Arizona. And I think the Nerfie is going to hit here. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been excellent. There's really no other way to put it. Yamamoto, 0.9 ERA, arguably the Cy Young favorite right now in the National League. He rarely gives up runs. Oddly enough, he gave up 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates a week ago, but Yamamoto's excellent. His last start against the Atlanta Braves, 6 innings, 1 hit, 0 runs. A couple starts before that against the Rangers, 7 innings, 5 hits, 0 runs. Same thing in the Cubs game, 6 innings, 2 hits, 0 runs. I mean, again, Yamamoto's been great. And I look at the start of the Diamondbacks lineup. Yeah, it's good. Don't get me wrong. They've got guys who can blast the baseball. I'm looking at a Corbin Carroll. Perdomo's been good. Pavin Smith, Josh Naylor. I personally think the pitcher's going to overmatch them here. Yamamoto. And I always think this about Nerfies too, right? Again, as much as we want to talk, analytics and stats in baseball, here's a stat that will mean something, obviously, right? Corbin Carroll, who's an elite hitter in the game. Don't get me wrong, right? All-star indefinitely this season, or definitely I feel like this season. Corbin Carroll bats 297. Let's just say he bats 300. Guys, Corbin Carroll only gets hit 3 out of 10 times he's at the plate. That's why I feel like individual spots like this for a Nerfie, especially against a pitcher like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I'm going to take the pitcher with a 0.9 ERA to overmatch the guy who gets a hit 3 times out of every 10 at-bats. And again, that's the thing about baseball. That's incredible. And I'm not trying to discredit the game, obviously. I know how hard it is to hit a baseball, obviously, right? But again, if we're just breaking this down, in a 1 appearance spot here in the 1st inning, I'm going to take the elite pitcher over the elite hitter, right? I know the Diamondbacks can cause chaos on the base paths. I understand that, but I think Yamamoto does overmatch Carroll, Perdomo, Smith, and potentially Josh Naylor. Now, the tough part's 100% Brandon Pfaadt versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. I get that. I am going to take Pfaadt, though, to, again, find a way to get out the first inning of this, the top of the first inning in this first game of this 3-game set between division rivals, or 4-game set, excuse me. Shohei's good. I'm not going to discredit Shohei. But if Brandon Pfaadt gets Shohei, we're getting out of this thing. I think so. Freddie Freeman was on fire in Miami, due for a little bit of regression. Mookie Betts has just been this year. He's still good, obviously. He's still one of the elite middle infielders in the game. He's batting .260. But Brandon Pfaadt, righty, might see some success there. Hey, the D-backs are very successful in Pfaadt pitches. They're 5-2 in games this year where the righty has gone. 3.79 ERA. That is so boosted, though, because of his last start against the Phillies, where he went 4 2/3, gave up 9 hits, and the Phils scored 7 runs on him. I think Pfaadt's going to be okay here. Again, I think it all starts and ends with Shohei Ohtani, personally. Yeah, Freddie could give you some trouble. He might hit a double, but if we're able to get Shohei out early, Freddie's double really doesn't affect us too much, and then we go to, what, Andy Pages or a Max Muncy in the 5. I'm okay with that. I think Brandon Pfaadt's going to be able to get us those outs, and I'm going to take the Nerfy here. Out of all the spots today, this is my favorite for the Nerfy, at least. I looked at all the games. I was like, yeah, this is probably the best one. And the odds aren't bad for it either. -110 for the Nerfy here in Arizona between the D-backs and the Dodgers. Let's stay hot with the Nerfies this season. Real quickly, I got to talk about the Washington Nationals. You know, Dice Roll Davies strikes again. Honestly, though, I'm not mad at Martinez's decision. I would have pulled Soroka a little bit earlier in yesterday's game, but having him start the 6th inning, like, we didn't know he was going to completely collapse in the 6th. You can say, oh, 3rd time around the order. Oh, Kwan's up. You know, he's great, and I know how good he is. But still, it's like, I don't mind leaving Soroka, and I just wonder why wasn't he pulled a little bit earlier in that inning. So, again, I have no problem with him starting the 6th. Why are we just going to let him, you know, obliterate himself in the 6th inning, and then we bring in the relief pitchers, and it's just like, you know, we went over this yesterday, I'm going to say it again, like, it's just, we have the most poverty bullpen in the league. I can't even trust in Jorge Lopez anymore. I thought Chafin was going to be solid for us. He's not. I don't know, that was one game, but still, it's just like, oh, our bullpen's so horrible. You know, Cole Henry's excellent. I'll give that guy so much credit, but man, can we get a bullpen, please? Guys, this is a playoff team without the bullpen. If this bullpen was half decent, this is a postseason team. And to think that this organization wasn't going to bring back Kyle Finnegan. They waited till the 11th hour to bring back Kyle Finnegan this year. What would we have done without him? Who would be the closer right now? I'm serious. Who's the closer without Kyle Finnegan? It's probably Jackson Rutledge, who I like, but man, oh my goodness, buy us some bullpen arms, please, Mike Rizzo. But the thing is, it all starts with Mark Lerner. So again, I hope you're happy, Mark. Look at your team. Look at your team. Another blown lead yesterday. They scored 6 runs. The offense did have 15 guys left on base yesterday, which is atrocious. But still, you got to win a game like that. And this is the reason why we're in a never-ending rebuild and we're never going to get back to the playoffs, because we aren't serious about winning baseball games. We're more interested in the real estate in the DC area than actually winning baseball games. Figure it out, Mark Lerner, please. An 8-run inning in the 6th can't happen. The Guardians scored in 1 inning yesterday, and they scored 8 runs in that inning, and we lose. Figure it out. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I had to get that off my chest. And I've been waiting all day to say that. I got up early in the morning yesterday to watch this game, and I just had to say something. Mark Lerner, if you're watching, you're not. Do something, please. Anyways, folks, that does it for MLB Best Bets here for May 8th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank you all for watching, and Mamba forever.